The Spirit of Christ is a missionary spirit. Great Controversy, page 70.
We need God to help us as it's the principles that has to do with business endeavors that we go through. And what thing that makes me become excited about this topic is that yesterday as we slept, you remember that we had a little bit of conversation here about the issues of business. You remember that? Yes, though electricity disappointed us, but there was a conversation that was taking place just here that had to do with the issues of business. To say, I remember very well, it had to do with the issues of charging. Do you charge people that you work with, and what happens when they exploit you or you exploit them, because it can be both sides, you understand, né? Sometimes you can be given services of which you do not will to pay, and that's also exploitation, isn't it? Yes, so I think as we are looking at this topic, that will also be clarified. It will be clarified because I believe one thing that we must always run away from as we began the camp. You remember that we said opinions are not supposed to be the standard of how we are to live as Christian. You remember that, né? We said opinions have no place. What else did we say has no place? Experiences. You understand, né? The issue with experiences is that the experiences differs. You understand that, né? Experiences what? Differs. You can come up with an experience that if we look at it in the word, we find that it violates all the rules that are in the Bible. Do you understand, né? And someone comes with another experience that seems not to be violating any rule, but experiences differs. It same applies with stories. You can tell a story and you say this story shows that God was with me, né? But no matter how that story is appealing to the ears of those who are listening to you, the question is, how do we know it was God? You can say and tell the congregation that God was working with me. You understand that, né? But the issue is, how do we know? Because the stories that are in the Bible, the reason we know God was working with Abraham, God was working with Daniel, is because they are inspired stories. Do you understand? Né? They are what? Inspired. It means if you tell a story or an experience and you want us to use it as a standard, it means you are what when? Inspired. It means you are what? Inspired. So once your story, you want to use it as a standard how to operate, you are elevating yourself to the level of a prophet. So we cannot use anyone's story as how we are going to learn. So we have taught this, né? But now we are saying, let's take away experiences and stories. Let's not talk about ourselves when we are here out together, né? We have said it clearly to say that the person that we want to talk about here is who? Is Jesus Christ. And once you are so ready to tell people about yourself, what you are doing for the Lord and how God is helping you, how do we know that you are working for God? Because your story is not what? Inspired, unless you are a prophet. How do we know that you are waiting for God? That's the issue here. Né? How do we know that you are waiting for God? So we are going to look at this topic, business principles and its method. And we'll realize that these lessons were supposed to come in the evening on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But we're looking at the series of how to study the Bible, if you remember very well. So the lesson that was supposed to take place Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are going to take place during this time. It means this Sabbath we are having a lesson that was supposed to take place when? On Monday evening. The next Sabbath, we are going to have a lesson that was supposed to have taken place on Tuesday evening. Then also the third Sabbath, we are going to take the lesson that was supposed to take place on Wednesday. So we will not have missed any lesson. So the lessons that we had, that series was very important, that we understand the importance of what? Of the Bible, because many of us, we know the importance of our experiences. And you don't understand my situation. No. We need to understand what situation, the Bible situation altogether. Ne? Yes, so the method of it says justifiable. Was this a Christ-like transaction? Did you understand that? Ne? So many of us, we need to understand that if God is looking at all this, then all selfishness that we show off as Christians will have to be rooted out of our life. Is that clear? Now, I'm reading Proverbs 22, verse 29. Can someone read it for us? Did you hear that? Ne? When you are diligent, where? In your business, you shall stand even before kings. And we have seen this example in the life of Daniel. He was diligent. Diligent means he was hardworking. He was not lazy altogether. Ne? Yes. And then Education 144, paragraph 1, it says, the accounts of every business, the details, that's what I was saying, the details of every transaction pass the scrutiny of the unseen auditors, not these auditors of the world, but heavenly angels. It says it passes the what? The scrutiny of an unseen auditor, agent of him who never compromises with injustice. Did you hear that? Ne? So it means justice in every business must be seen, never overlooks evil, never palliates wrong. That's God who does that. Do you understand that? Ne? So it means every person, we are not talking only of yesterday's topic of medical missionary, but we are talking about every business. Every business, you understand? Ne? Don't say this one, no, yeah, I am strictly professional. Yeah, God understands that I'm here for money. You understand? Ne? The purpose of business is that you make money, isn't it? But what we are told is that as you are in the process of making money, the accounts are being audited by heavenly angels. Is that clear? Ne? So when we say that a business must make money, it means it must have what? Profit, isn't it? It must have what? Profit. But that profit must be audited whether that transaction shows justice in the hands of God. Is that clear? Then it says, all branches of business, all manner of employment are under the eye of God. And every Christian has been given ability to do something in the course of the master, whether engaged in business, in the field, in the warehouse, or in the counting room. Men will be held responsible to God for the wise and the honest employment of their talents. They are just as accountable to God for their work as their minister who labors in word and doctrine is for his. Did you hear that? Ne? Let me repeat that. They are just as accountable to God for their work as the minister who labors in word and doctrine is for his. Did you hear that? Ne? So God comes and he audits every business that takes place in each and every one of us as he listens to a minister who presents on Sabbath. It means the faithfulness that he shows on Sabbath, it should be the very same faithfulness that you show towards your clients during the week. Is that clear? Yes. Christ Object Lesson 349 paragraph 2. It says, God desires that his workers in every line shall look to him as the giver of all they possess. All right innovations and improvements have their source in him, who is wonderful in counsel and excellent in working. The skillful touch of the physician's hand, his power over nerve and muscle, his knowledge of the delicate organism of the body is the wisdom of divine power to be used in behalf of the suffering. The skill with which the carpenter uses the hammer, the strength with which the blacksmith makes the evil ring comes from God. So everything that you do, you must appreciate that that knowledge does not come from you. Where does it come from? From God. And you know Dr. Kellogg had a problem with that, isn't it? When God told him, you know, the knowledge that you have in all these things is coming from God, and he realized, if God is going to get glorified, who will notice me? You see, so he was in competition with who? With God. And many of us, you see, you need to understand what I've done for you. You need to understand what I've done for you. But who has worked? It's who? It's God. It says there, the skillful knowledge that the carpenter uses when he uses the hammer. The strength which the blacksmith makes an evil ring comes from God. He has entrusted men with talents, and he expects them to look to him for counsel. Whatever we do in whatever department of the work we are placed, whatever we do, and in whatever department, it does not specify. It means all manner of what? All manner of departments, all branches of the work that we are engaged during the 6 days. God, when he looks at us, he sees a Christian, not a businessman. Did you hear that? Ne? He sees a what? A Christian. I'm a Christian on Sabbath. During the week, I'm a businessman. So please don't take advantage of me. Yes, we are going to address the issues of people who take advantage of people to say, okay, because this person is a Christian, then I won't be able to pay. That is also exploitation. You understand that? Ne? That is not right. At the same time, the person who also offers services must also know that he is a what? Christian. So both things are expected from, both people are expected to God to give that accountability. And he expects them to look to him for counsel. Whatever we do in whatever department of the work we are placed, it desires to control our minds that we may do a perfect work. That looks very extreme. You know what he said there? It desires to control our what? Our mind that we may do the perfect work. So when you look of the best architect, who will you first look at? It's God, isn't it? Of what he did when he says, Moses, I want you to build what? An ark. And that ark, you must follow all the instructions as I have given you. So when God says to Noah, what I want you to put, I want you to make a 3-story ark. What would have happened if Noah had decided to put 4? The water would have came in, no matter how strong you want to make it. He had violated God's principles. Do you understand that? Ne? So God is the one who knows what we need, and he is the one who gives us instructions, because we are not wiser than him, isn't it? So we are told that when we look at that entire body, it's a living machinery, and that living machinery, its muscles, its body, everything, it's showing the wisdom of the divine power to be used in behalf of their suffering. Religion and business are not to be separate. Did you hear that? Ne? Religion and business are not to be what? Once you say, okay, now I'm in business, ne? This is not religion. Now now you are meeting a businessman, and then you are a serious problem, because it's now in, okay, once you compare what you do as a Christian with what secular people are doing, then there's an issue. Religion and business are not two separate things. They are what? They are one. Bible religion is to be interwoven with all we do or say. Divine and human agencies are to combine in temporal as well as spiritual achievement. They are to be united in all human pursuits, in mechanical and agricultural labors, in mercantile and scientific enterprises. There must be cooperation in everything embraced in Christian activity. Did you hear that? Ne? So you must embrace Christian activities in all those scientific enterprises and all the agricultural and mechanical. Everything that you do must be what? Must be biblical. You cannot use the very same methods to run your business as those who are in the world. Do you understand? Ne? Castle on Stewardship 143, paragraph 2. It says, God is very particular that all who profess to serve him shall manifest the superiority of right principles. By the true follower of Christ, every business transaction will be regarded as part of his religion. Did you hear that? Let me read that again. By the true follower of Christ, every business transaction will be regarded as a part of his religion, just as prayer is part of his religion. So when you are making your business transaction, God looks at you as when you are praying to say whatever you are doing is regarded as part of your religion. The separation between your religion and your business is apostasy. Is that clear, ne? Is that clear? So it means Christian principles must be embedded in your business. You remember the Samaritan person who has been injured, right? Not the Samaritan person who has been injured. The Samaritan person who had compassion on an injured man, you remember, right? Who was beaten by the robbers. What did he say? What did he say? Anyone who remembers? What did he do in that story? What? He will say he will pay for it, right? But before he will pay for it, what did he say? Heal this person, right? When I come, I will what? I will pay for it. So paying is necessary, né? But what was primary? His healing life was primarily. Do you understand, né? So there must be that balance. Paying must happen, né? But as a Christian, you cannot say, I leave this person to die, né? Because they have no medical aid, and then I will see it when they have. You understand, né? It means that heal the person, then when a person is alive, né? That's when now you can what? You can negotiate to say, you know what should happen. You know, yes, that's the reason. Your business was established. You understand, né? Payment must happen. Is that clear, né? Yes. Christ Object Lesson 350, paragraph 2 says, it is just as essential to do the will of God when erecting a building as when taking part in religious service. Will I repeat that? It is just as essential to do the will of God when erecting a building as when taking part in a religious service. When you are sitting in church like here, né, the very same conduct, it should be the very same conduct when you are what? You are in your business transactions. Is that clear? Castle on Stewardship 144, paragraph 1 says, Satan is offering to every soul the kingdoms of this world in return for the carrying out of his will. This was the great inducement he presented to Christ in the wilderness of temptation. And so he says to many of Christ's followers, as you will follow my business method, as you understand what I'm reading, you are not lost, né? Who are we talking about here? Satan, are we together, né? Says, and so he says to many of Christ's followers, if you will follow my business method, so there are business methods that belong to him, right? Yes, I will reward you with Wealth. So what is the first motive of a person who is following the principles of the devil? Wealth. Once you say, look at people out there, they are running their businesses and they are successful and they are wealthy. Why not with us? What methods are you following? The devil's methods. It says every Christian is at some time brought to the test, which will reveal his weak points of character. If the temptation is resisted, precious victories are gained. He must choose whether he will save Christ or become a follower of the deceiver and a worshipper of him. So you can worship the devil by how you conduct your business principles. There are those, even among Seventh-day Adventists, who are under the reproof of the word of God because of the way they acquire their property and use it, acting as if they own it and created it without the eye to the glory of God. Did you hear that? Ne? What do? They act as if they what? Created it and own it, but forgetting that they are under the supervision of the eye of God, and without earnest prayer to direct them in acquiring or using it. So God must direct how we must use whatever we inquire. God must direct how we inquire, how we use what God has given us. It says here, the spirit of gain getting, of making haste to be rich. Making haste, you want to be rich quickly. Of this all absorbing worldliness is painful, contradictory to our faith and doctrines. So it means when you run a business in this manner, you have apostatized in the church. Why? It is contrary to our beliefs and doctrines. It means a person who runs a business in this fashion, that person is a what? Has denied the faith. The desire that some of our brethren possess to earn means fast leads them to engage in new enterprise and investments, but often their expectation of making money are not realized. They think that which they could have spent in God's cause. There is an infatuation in these new enterprises, and notwithstanding these things have been acted over so many times, and they have before them to example of others who have made investments and have met with their utter failure. Yet many are slow to learn. Satan alludes them on and makes them drunk with anticipated gains. When their hopes are blasted, they suffer many discouragements in consequences of their unwise adventures. If means is lost, the person looks upon it as a misfortune to himself as his loss. Can anyone comment on that? Have you seen this happening? Hmm? This is terrible, brothers and sisters. Satan sets in operation schemes that will produce in the minds of our brethren a great desire to try their fortunes. As in lottery, one and still another are flattered by strong representation of financial gain. If they will only invest their money in land and they take their means out of our institution and bury it in the earth, where the Lord's cause is not benefited, then if one is successful, he is so elated over the fact that he has gained a few $100 and that he decides to keep on getting money if he can. He continues to invest in real estate or in mines. The device of Satan is successful. In the place of the increased funds flowing into the treasury, there is withdrawal of means from our institutions in order that the owners may try their fortunes in the mining business or in the land speculation. The spirit of greed is fostered, and the natural penurious man begrudges every dollar that is called for to be used in the advancement of the cause of God in the earth. So people were actually withdrawing money from the cause of God and putting it in the investing of mines. Do you understand that? Né? So, want to say something? Mm. Mm.
you to there are good principles people might get, like let's say I'm realizing I was in the comfort zone, I'm planning, focusing,
Yes.
and let's say perhaps there's an idea that the work of God is not as focused, right?
Mm.
I'm realizing, but I'm planning if I want to support myself in the institutions of God, isn't it?
Mm.
Let's say I have something, let's say the health shop, but I have a health shop, and I'm realizing, hey, this is not waiting for
Mm.
and so, as Christian, you must give our children what?
Education.
Education, because this education is from God, eh?
Mm.
And I'm realizing, if I'm just going to buy books and everything, I cannot even take the car,
Yes.
and I realized, no, it's not working. What do I do? I say, okay, this God work is a balance. I take out every money from the institutions of God, and I say, it's the right chance to invest there. In the well-being and enterprising,
Yes.
because profit is allowed where? In the well-being enterprising. So that's why I will survive. So that's what exactly see happening. These people nowadays, they were taking parents from the institutions of God, and they invest now in the well-being enterprising. Their policies in the now. And that's when we are seeing all the institutions that do our new ones of God are shut down. So and again, another extreme, and you find somebody say, you know what, if I run on God's principles, the profit is so little. Maybe it's there, but so little. And I'm running a same school as the people in the well. The savings I'm offering are for, you know what, I'm just going to invest more and more, or setting prices a lot. Then now you are operating as the private schools where now you are milking out people. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is to say, we need to ask ourselves this question. Is it biblical when you are running an institution or a business to receive profit?
Yes, that's the question.
That's the first thing we need to realize, because the way it almost looks like today, if I'm going to have anything, any institution which is a God mandated,
Yes.
if I'm going to receive profit and fees. Now, if I take the very same institution and I run it in the way then it is right.
Is profit wrong? You see, we need to understand that and study the Bible. You remember there was a person called Jacob who was actually running the business of Laban. You remember it, né? And God blessed it, and it was so successful that we could not believe it. And Laban was shocked. Was that business of house a survival, or it had profit? It had profit. That's the purpose of every business. It must have profit. But what we're saying is that profit and survival are not primarily above saving people, but it must be there. We'll see as we continue. Let's just read. Yes. Okay. Let's actually read it again. It says certain certain operation schemes that will produce in the minds of our brethren a great desire to try their fortunes, as in what? In lottery. one and still another flattered by strong representation of financial gain if they will only invest their money in what? In land. Remember that we have laid down principles that every business and religion are not to be separated. So it means if you are in these enterprises, it means gain should not be primarily. You understand that? But these things will not allow you to say gain is not primarily. And if your mindset is to look for gain as a person, and then that's what you will do. You will invest where? In these mines, as in lottery. You understand that? Ne? You want to know what is the problem? Or you are answered? Because these people are trying to make rich haste. That is the issue here. To say they are trying to make rich haste, to get rich fast. It was investment where you put money so that you can get a lot of it quickly. That's what we are addressing here. Ne? Maybe you'll be answered as we move on. Let's just move on because I think we have quite a number of slides and we have to prepare for Sabbath. Ne? You'll be answered as we move on. Then there is some lottery business connected with it. And I think I've read this. Ne? No, I didn't. Then there is some lottery business connected with it. And one young man that goes there obtains a what? A gold watch. What then? The watch may be genuine gold. It may be no fraud. But there is a fraud back of that. And that is the snare. If he has gained this once, he will want and try it again. Oh, I will rather, if it had been a son of mine, have him lying in his coffin than sporting that gold watch. Then here are other boys. He shows his watch to them. And there is an itching with them to try their luck in the just same way. And so they will attempt this matter themselves. Then another will attempt it and another. And so the influence extends from one to another. And the devil knows just how to play his game. So remember, God put it clear in the beginning that we must eat from the sweat, isn't it? We must work. That's what God has said. But once you say you want to invest and get money without working, this is what we see most people stock fail. Yes, you're playing stock fail and you just want to put money and then you sit at home, then you sleep the entire month, then you want money to come back to you. You understand? So what we are saying is that we are encouraged to work by the Bible. Is that clear? Yes, and we have seen many people working in the Bible. We have seen, as I've said, of Jacob. We have seen Daniel working. We have even seen Jesus Christ working as a carpenter, Paul as a tent maker. People have been working. We don't see Paul going and say, no, I just want money to come as I'm sleeping. You understand what is being the problem now? All right, it says, if men inquire property in a manner that is not approved by the word of God, they obtain it at the sacrifice of the principles of honesty. Child Guidance 154, paragraph 1. In every business never deceive or prevaricate in the least matter. At times, the natural impulse may bring temptation to diverge from the straightforward path of honesty, but do not vary 1 year's breadth. Now, sometimes it's tempting, when you are told, and this person comes and proposes a business, but when you look at it, this is just fraud and robbery of people, and you think about the profit that will come. You say, if I leave this person will think I'm a fool, isn't it? And the person says, just think about it. When a person is so sure you will take it, says, just think about it. Just sleep on it, my friend. Then he knows. And then you say, no, I can't. He says, hey, what kind of person are you? Then you say, but that's fraud. He says, yeah, if it's fraud, then don't tell your wife. He doesn't think about God, isn't it? Yeah, he says, don't tell your wife. You see that, your wife. Because we need to understand these principles of honesty. If in any matter you make a statement as to what you will do, and afterward find out you have favored others to your own loss, do not vary his breath from principles. Just read. Can someone read that again? Where I say, if in any matter, can someone read? What is that principle? Honesty. Honesty is the principle of the context of this quotation, not money. Someone will interpret it as saying the principle is what? It's man. From this quotation, the context, the principle is what? Honesty, not money. To say, okay, this is now in my own loss, referring to your loss of money. The quotation refers to the loss of your what? Your honesty. You understand? Né? Yes. It says, carry out your agreement by seeking to change your plans. You will show that you could not be depended on. And should you draw back in a little transaction, you will draw back in larger ones. Under such circumstances, some attempted to deceive, saying, I was not understood. My words have been taken to mean what? More than I intended. You see, you are trying to justify yourself. The fact is they mean just what they said, but lost the good impulse and then wanted to draw back from the agreement lest they prove a loss to them. Is that clear, ne? Yes. It says men are wanted whose senators will not allow them to make an entry of their time that is not minute and correct. Men who will realize that they are handling means that belong to God, and who will not unjustly appropriate one's time to their own use. Men who will be just as faithful and exact, careful and diligent in their labor. Do you see the balance there in that quotation? What is it that is needed? Men who will appropriate one's time to their own use. Men who will be just as, and who will not unjustly appropriate one's time to their own use. Then it says, men who will be as just as faithful and exact. So faithful and what? Exact. Careful and diligent in their labor, in the absence of their employer, as in his presence. I've heard people going to the extremes and interpret the text that you remember we spoke about the intended meaning of the text. You remember that, né? And the intended meaning of the text is different from the what? From the imposing your own thoughts into the text. You understand, né? So when God says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But when on the Sabbath day is the Sabbath of rest, you shall not do any work, nor your what? Nor your servants, nor your maid servant, nor your what, nor your donkey. Then people use that text and say, if God says, even your own servants, it means all Adventists should have servants. Have you heard that? Do you think that was in the mind of God, or we are imposing it? Trying to look powerful. You see the problem, eh? Did God say that? Because God is coming up with different situations in that text. To say no, or this or that, you understand? Because we are diverse as humans. That's why it says your employer. So an Adventist can be employed. You understand? Ne? So let's not impose our own mind into the text, ne? So that we can be powerful. Yes. Yes, I've heard that too. People saying that, it's the last days. It's the day of atonement. You see, you can't be waking. You can't be waking. Then a person leaves the job. Ne? I will preach. Yes. I think, you see, the hypocrisy here becomes that you left the work, ne? So that you can work for God. Then people who are working can support you. You see the hypocrisy? You want people's money. That's when you don't want to work there. That's hypocrisy. If you are saying leave your job and then do God's work, is that what God can call you to? Yes, God can call you to do that. But don't look at people and say, please support me. And then you go and say working is what? Is evil. If working is evil, even the money that people are giving you is what? It's evil. Don't take it. You see, né? So the idea that you can't work or employ is just a fallacy of the devil. It's just fanatical ideas. It's just fanatical ideas. Yes. Mm. 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 Yes.
So many people fear that diligence that they must put in because people must put it back.
Yes. Yes.
So people fear the diligence of putting these things because then they want to withdraw from that attitude.
Yes.
They want to withdraw from that attitude that you still want others to go and do the same thing that you're going to do and come and give you the man.
That's the hypocrisy.
We don't withdraw from the word unless we go do business that means it's what God has given you want to do.
Yes.
There is nothing good about it. There's nothing good about anything. But if it's a business that is genuine and you need to you hope to be there. It's not Christian, you don't know where I'm living. Now you're Christian.
You see, we need to understand that when you are working in the world, these principles must be applied. So people just say, let's just live and then work among us as Adventists. You understand, and shut ourselves from the world. And Ellen White says it clearly to say, as much as the message of John the Baptist, it is our message today. His experiences of being in the wilderness is not to be our experience. Do you understand that? Why? It's because you are required to what? To refuse fraud every day at work. And that's character what? Development that is needed of you. So people running away from that says, I'm just going to leave the job. And then people who are working are being told, please, man, I'm working for God. Please donate me. You want the money, but you left the job. All right, let's just read this. These men are wanted whose sense of justice, even in the smallest matters, will not allow them to make any entry of their time that is not minute, and correct men who will realize that they are doing means that belong to God, who will not unjustly appropriate oneself to their own use, men who will be just as faithful, exact, careful, and diligent in their labor, in the absence of their employer as in his presence, proving by their faithfulness that they are not merely men pleasers, I7, but are conscientious, faithful, true workmen, doing right, not for human praise, but because they love and choose right from a high sense of their obligation to God. And that was Joseph. You remember Joseph? Joseph said to the wife of Potiphar, how can I do this great wickedness and sin against who? Not against Pharaoh, but against God. So it means he was not a man's pleaser, you understand? And then when he worked there in the world, you remember he was working there in Egypt. Then he is the one who actually put in Christian principles that preserve the entire land of Egypt by saying that there will be famine after how many years? 7 years. It will be coming after 7 years of famine, then comes, 7 years of plenty, then 7 years of famine. That was where? In Egypt. And he worked faithfully, and there his brethren had to come to get what? A help from him. Do you understand that? Yes, then I will come to you. Mm. Mm.
There was also two treatments
Mm.
that had to be made by Joseph.
Yes.
To make people to see, right?
Mm. 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 Yes. Mm. 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 You must resist temptations daily. Temptations must be resisted. Running away from temptations is not what God is saying. God, when temptation, we meet them, we resist them. Ellen White says, meet a temptation in such a way that it will never come back again. Understand? Make it clear that your character, when people think about how they are going to exploit someone and they have this board meeting, let you be absent because they know if we bring him here, he will oppose it. Then they have these secret meetings. You understand that? Yes. Look at Daniel when they had that night of reveling and enjoying. Did they brought him there? He was not there because they knew his faithfulness. You understand that? So God is requiring us to be faithful so that your presence there, even without saying anything, it's a sermon and it's a rebuke. You understand? They must know, this person, no, let's just not bring them into the boardroom. Then they put a meeting on Sabbath where you will not be at work and discuss everything. But you, withdrawing from everything and shutting yourself from the world, and then you are not even a light to the world. Yes? Mm. Yes. Yes. Ideas. Yes, yes. Mm. Yes. Eat. Mm. 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 Mm.
Apostle prophet work and do your own one. You can't say, I'm not going to work in it. This way, and you're not going to provide your own bread. It doesn't make sense. Then, I need to do it at all. Because you look at the Apostle Paul, you remember Apostle Paul, we read it yesterday in Acts, I converted no man silver or gold. Although I have a full right to get this thing because I'm an apostle, I'm a pastor. Then he says, since I'm not going to receive these things from the way which I'm doing, the gospel ministry, I would rather do what? I would rather be a tent maker. He never said, give me donation, but there were those who just help. That's why you even just get when you go to these people. But you brother, do not really well what you want to do. In other words, as these people here may have mara. Those people must know that primarily everyone must eat of their daughter, must eat from his joy, isn't it? Yes, because we look at the ministry itself in the Bible. We see Levites waiting, were they eating from the nation? Or they had given the Levites? What were they eating? The Levites. The ones who were in a circle. What were they eating? Huh? What were they eating from the Levites in the Bible? Was it donation?
They wake up.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
Paul, can you also wake up?
That's what I'm trying to understand. Look, there is another thing called a shekel, control shekel. Control shekel. If the extra space is a statement, so we want to balance this, or rather get the right principle of this thing, because extra space,
Exodus 13,
just space to make something I want us to see there. Extra space, the government plays for us to find the time.
Then they shall give everyone that passeth among them that are numbered, half a shekel after the shekel of the faithful, a shekel in 20 gerahs, and half shekel shall be the offering of the Lord. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than half a shekel, when they give an offering unto the Lord to make an atonement for the sin.
Yes, look at it. People are paying for the gospel. Because there was a sanctuary, what? Shekel, and then the rich could not do what? Pay more. And the poor should not pay less. Right? So here, in other words, you see God expected Christians when it comes to the gospel work itself. Right? They take out certain money. That's the one thing you see. But however, we remember very well in Matthew 17, verse 27, this guy they come to teach him, it looks like Jesus is not saying much. The fact that a shekel of the sanctuary, I want to basically is without what they were referring to. Here, when they say does not pay tithing, they were referring to the sanctuary, and the Christ that they are supposed to know. I was not supposed to say it, but I I was not supposed to, but for righteousness' sake, because they were agreed with guys that we will say, go to the mount of the feast, which is just take it and pay the fee. So, in other words, one thing we see here, the system of the devil is saying, the feast of God, there should not be any payment whatsoever. If the devil is deceiving us, because he knows with that extreme number of business, many people may leave the work of God. No one will want to do project. If I open a health shop and I can open a chemistry, which one will you open? Chemistry will help me survive, isn't it? But the health shop will not what? We're not allowed to do that. We need to do that. So this is the devil is deceiving us when it comes to this thing. And as you said again, it is equally the devil as well, who makes you join this take the way of God, the good ministry. You do not have the wing of mercy. Where even when you see poor people who cannot pay, you do what you see exact on it.
All right, thank you for that. Yes. All right, yes, comment another one so that we know. I think, yeah, comment. Proverbs 23, verse 4. Ne? It says there, labor not to be rich, cease from thy own wisdom. To be rich.
The wisdom that we have, some of us from other people, from school. It's the wisdom of what? We never to the what? If you ask them, why are you studying this course? This is a man. And then what do you want to do with that man? You know, I want to buy a car, I want to do this and this. Let's just in our mind to try our wisdom to be rich. So the bank is not that much to be rich. So what they are ready to do is very important is telling our wisdom and our wisdom that we are
Okay? Yes, that's a wonderful verse. Ne? Labor not to be rich. Ne? Now, going back to the Garden of Eden, God gave man work. Remember that? How much was he supposed to pay? Remember, it says, you shall dress this garden and keep it. Right? How much was God supposed to pay Adam? Remember, the first work, before sin is introduced, there was work. No payment. There was what? Work. So work first primarily is to glorify God altogether. Ne? Then secondarily you need to do all those needs that you need in order to sustain yourself, isn't it? Yes, we need to sustain ourselves. So the issue is once you are going to be getting paid, maybe let's say you get paid 70 something thousand per month as a chemical engineer. Then you leave and you say, I want to become a missionary or a medical missionary. And then once you have left that department and you come here, you have done God too much of a favor. That's what it's in your mind. God have done you a favor. So that means among the missionaries, you must be treated to say, did you know how much I was earning before I came here? You understand the spirit, né? That's how we have seen it in most cases. People who hold God with a throat to say, I deserve it. If you don't give it to me, I'm going back to the well. You can't do that to God, eh? You can't do that to God. It says, in all the details of life, the strictest principles of honesty are to be maintained. Deviation from perfect fairness in business deal may appear as a small thing in the estimation of some, but our Savior did not thus regard it. His words on his point are plain and explicit. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. A man who A man who will overreach his neighbor on the small scale will overreach in a larger scale if the temptation is brought to bear upon him. A false representation in a small matter is as much dishonesty in the sight of God as falsity in a larger matter. Is that clear, ne? So God will entrust us with what? With larger responsibility if we are faithful, even in small responsibility. So once you only going to be faithful when you say, if God do this to me, then I will do this. You understand? We have this issue of holding God by a throat and say, hey, God, this is what I will do if you do this. We have one other brother. He says, you see what? If I start working, I will also start a mission camp. You see, does it need you to start working to start a missionary work? How much money do you need to go to someone's house? The neighbor. You understand that, Yes, so you can't speak about faithfulness in a larger scale if you are not doing a missionary work on a smaller scale. An honest man, according to Christ's measurement, is the one who will manifest unbending integrity, deceitful ways, and false balances, with which many seek to advance in their interest in the world, are an abomination in the sight of God. Firm integrity shines forth as gold amid the dross and rubbish of wealth. Deceit, falsehood, and unfaithfulness may be glossed over and hidden from the eyes of men, but not from the eyes of God. The angels of God who will watch the development of character and weigh moral worth record in the books of heaven these minor transactions which reveal character. So it's about what? Character development. Sit well, you are fine. Sit well, because you're gonna break that chair. Yes, it says every sharp transaction, every attempt to take advantage of a man who is under pressure of circumstances, every plan to purchase his land or property for a sum beneath its value. It means if something is 50,000, buy it with 50,000. Someone says, but I'm a church member, I must buy it, please. You understand? Or you take advantage of people that is not needed in the Christian lifestyle. You understand that? So we must not exploit each other, as we have said, that person is working for what? For gain. Which is secondarily, of course, but it must be there. That person must eat, isn't it? That person must what? Must get their profit. A business has to have a profit. There's every sharp transaction, every attempt to take advantage of a man who is under pressure of circumstance, every plan to purchase his land or property for sum beneath its value will not be acceptable to God, even though the money gain is made an offering to his cause. You see that, So sometimes a person can be under pressure. You see someone maybe lives in Zimbabwe and they have to leave this December and they have a lot of things in their house. And they have to sell them because they are thinking of not coming back. You understand that? And then you see this person is looking for buyers quickly. And you say, oh, that is the opportunity I will use. This parade is leaving tomorrow and they want buyers. And the person, this thing is just coaches that could cost maybe 12,000. So I will take them by 5,000. You understand? And you know their cost. You know this cannot be bought by 5,000. That is taking advantage of other people's weaknesses. You understand that? It is not looked upon and overlooked. God judges such transactions. A truly honest man will never take advantage of the weakness and the incompetency in order to fill his own purse. 152 paragraph 2. Do not make the work and the cause of God an excuse for dealing closely and selfishly with anyone. Do you hear that? Do not make the work and the cause of God an excuse for dealing closely and what? Selfishly with anyone. So sometimes you say, but agree, we are Christians. We are Christians, so please have mercy on me. While you are dealing with someone, how? Selfishly. A laborer is worthy of his own reward. Even if it's a person who is a church member, if that person you need to pay, if the only mercy that we said, that arm of the mercy that Brother John was speaking about, is if you assess the situation and see, yeah, this person is unable to pay. That's where the arm of mercy, because remember, business and religion are not to be separated. Do you understand that? Ne? But once you separate that, or you put them together in order to take advantage of it, you understand? So there are two arms. One is to separate them so that you can what? Fraud people. Another is to put them together so that you can take advantage of people. You understand? Ne? Yes. So let's just look at this in both sides. It says here, God will accept nothing in the line of gain that is brought into his treasury through selfish transaction. Every act in connection with his work is to bear a divine inspection. God looks at you. Have you had mercy on that person? Or have you been taking advantage of that person? So God, even if you are doing the work of God, he says he will not accept anything into his work which bears the signature of dishonesty. He who truly fears God, will rather toil day and night and eat the bread of poverty than to indulge the passion of gain that oppress the widow and fatherless or turns the stranger from his right. Did you hear that? You rather what? You rather eat the bread of poverty than oppress a person who's unable to pay. You know, someone gave me an example to say these people that are helping people when there's an accident, they come and they assess this a place that an accident has taken place, and they identify the people that are involved in that accident, and they see who has a medical aid, and if there are two people in the car, they take one and leave the other to die because that person has no medical aid. You see, that's how in the world it works. So you cannot say, because in the world it works like that, myself I should work like that. That shows you have separated religion and and business. But others put them together in order to say, simply because you are a Christian, I won't pay. Both are Are evil. The slightest departure from the rectitude breaks down the barriers and prepares the heart to do greater injustice, just to that extent that a man will gain advantage for himself at the disadvantage of another, will his soul become insensible to the influence of the Spirit of God. Sometimes whatever you do, listen to what? The Holy Spirit, you just look at it. Will God approve this of me? Gain obtained at such a cost is a faithful what? Loss. You might gain the money and lose your own soul. As we deal with our fellow men in petty dishonesty or in more daring fraud, so will we deal with God. Men who persist in a course of dishonesty will carry out their principle until they cheat their own souls and lose heaven and eternal life. You are just used to cheating, isn't it? You live in cheat your own soul. They will sacrifice honor and religion for a small worldly advantage. There are such men right in our own ranks, and they will have to experience what it is to be born again, or they cannot see the kingdom of God. Honesty should stamp every action of our lives. Heavenly angels examine the work that is put into our hands, and where there has been a departure from the principles of truth, wanting is written in the records. Proverbs 28 verse 20. The Bible says, a faithful man shall abound with blessings, but he that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent. 13:11. Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathereth by labor shall increase. So God will want us to labor. Jeremiah 17:11. I hope you are writing this text down. Just looking at time. He that getteth riches and not by right shall leave them in the midst of his days, and at his end shall he be a fool. A fool. You do not acknowledge God in your life. Gospel Workers 424, paragraph 1. Is there anyone want to add something? We are coming to a close, just left with 6 slides, then we close so that we can prepare the Sabbath in time, prepare for Sabbath program. Those who labor in business lines should take every precaution against falling into error through wrong principles of methods. Their record may be like that of Daniel in the court of Babylon, when all his business transactions were subject to the closest scrutiny. Not one fault item could be found. Did you hear that? Ne? Where was Daniel working? In Babylon. What people are saying today, you can't work Babylon. Because Babylon is what? It's fallen. That's going to the extreme, right? Sometimes we need to acknowledge what the context means. You understand? Ne? The Bible is clear. Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Then you look at the context. What is God talking about here? You can't just say working with an unbeliever, you are unequally yoked with unbelievers. That is not true at all. Are you saying you are only going to heal Adventists? You are only going to sell cars to Adventists? You understand that? That's fanaticism that we need to avoid. It says here, where was I? In the court of Babylon. When all is, I'm not in the court of Babylon. I was reading in the court of Babylon. Yes. When all his business transactions were subject to the closest scrutiny, not one fault item could be found. The record of all his business life, incomplete though it is, contains lessons worthy of study. We must study these things. It reveals the fact that a businessman is not necessarily a scheming policeman. He may be man instructed of God at every step. Daniel, while prime minister of the kingdom of Babylon, was a what? A prophet of God, receiving the light of heavenly inspiration. His life is an illustration of what every Christian businessman may be. In where? In Babylon. We are not of this world, but we are where? In this world. You see, né? So there's a difference. It needs to be clear that God will not want you to use Christianity as an excuse for not working. There are just people who are just lazy, and say God does not want us to work with unbelievers. God wants you to be honesty among them. It says here, there is need of businessmen who will weave the grand principles of truth into all their transactions, and their talent should be perfected by most through the study and training. If men in a line of work need to improve their opportunities to become wise and efficient, it is those who are using their ability in building up the kingdom of God in our world. Of Daniel, we learn that in all his business transactions, when subject to the closest scrutiny, not one fault or error could be found. He was sample of what every businessman may be. This is another one. Did you see that? Ne? So she repeats the very same thing to say that life of Daniel in Babylon is an example of every businessman can be in our world. Did you see that? Ne? It says it is those who are using their ability in building up the kingdom of God in our world. Do you understand? Ne? Then it says he was sample of what every businessman may be. His history shows that what may be accomplished by one who consecrates the strength of brain and bone and muscles of heart and life to the service of God. This it says here, in every business transaction, a Christian will be just what he wants his brethren to think he is. You don't want people to think you are honest. You must be honest. Do you understand? Né? His course of action is guided by underlying principle. He does not scheme. Therefore, he has nothing to conceal, nothing to gloss over. He may be criticized, he may be tested, but his unbending integrity will shine forth like pure gold. He is a blessing to all connected with him, for his word is what? Trustworthy. You see, it means that the person that can be trusted, when they look, it says that they scrutinized the life of Daniel and they could find nothing against him. You remember that? They said, except the worship of his God. He says he is a man who will not take advantage of his neighbor. He is a friend and a benefactor to all, and his fellow men put confidence in his castle. Now let's read about Brother Sharp here. It says here, Brother Sharp lost a situation in a prosperous firm where he has worked for 14 years. Listen to this very carefully. So when we look at a story, we are looking at a what? Inspired story. Don't come with your own story. We are reading about Brother Sharp because once it's in a spirit of prophecy, it's a what? Inspired story. Is that clear? So don't come with you say, I'm like Brother Sharp. You know what happened to me 3 years ago? No, we don't want that, please. During all that time, no fault was found with him. When Brother Sharp told one of the partners of his decision to keep the Sabbath, he said they could not work it all right and was disposed to give him the day. It is the custom to work only 3 hours on Saturday, but Brother Sharp promised to make up that time fully by working over hours. So this person is working where? In Babylon. Brother Sharp is working where? In Babylon. And these people are asking him, can you please come and work just only for how long? 3 hours. That's how the devil tests us. I remember a certain brother says that we need to what? To just, if the people don't what? They don't see you in the morning. You see, there are hours that you can cover in the morning. When does the Sabbath begin? Sunset to sunset. So if you can work before the sunset, then there's a problem. You see that? It says here, during all that time, no fault was found in him. When Brother Sharp told one of the partners of his decision to keep the Sabbath, he said they could work it all right and was disposed to give him the day. It is the custom to work only 3 hours on Saturday. Brother Sharp promised to make up that time fully by working over hours during the week. But when the matter was brought before the associate partners, it was decided that they could not keep him if he kept the Sabbath. If you keep the Sabbath, we can't keep you. That's terrible. They gave him 1 month to decide the matter. That's a good deal, We give you how long? 1 month to decide the matter. As he was firm at the end of the month, he was asked to resign his situation because they did not like to turn him off. He said, have you not been pleased and satisfied with my work? They said, perfectly, they said. This man was working, was not lazy, right? They said, we are satisfied how? Perfectly, they said. Well then, why should I act an untruth? I am very sorry to break connection with you. And I want to remain, but I must keep the Sabbath. I could arrange to keep the Sabbath and do just as many hours by giving more time. I certainly cannot resign. Then they discharged him. December 14, I received a letter saying that Brother Sharp had been sent for to come to an important firm and to talk with the proprietor. This man said that he had let his bookkeeper go for a holiday and in his absence had attended to the books himself. While doing so, he found that he credited himself with £15 more per month than he had his bookkeeper. Are you listening? He saw that he had been dealt with dishonestly. He told Sharp that he had heard that he had lost his place on because of any failure on his part because he wanted to keep the Sabbath, and added, I said that this is the man I want. You see, this is the boss talking about who? This is the man talking about who? Brother Sharp, you understand that? So this is what should be said of you where? In the world. Don't run from your responsibility and want people who are waiting there to give you money. He says, I said that this is the man I want. I can trust that man. He has a conscience and he fears God. Well, he said, you may have the Sabbath. And I think he has the same pay that he has received from other firms. Is that clear, Yes. Whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of God. wherever you are, whatever you do. Is that clear, ne? So we need to understand that God will want us to be honest in all our business transaction and not to separate business from religion. These things are intertwined. And as they are intertwined, it means what? It means that God expects the principles of religion to be embedded in your business. He does not expect the principles of business to be embedded in your Christianity, but the other way around, right? The principles of Christianity must what? Must be in your businesses, in everything that you do. Let the signet be sealed on your work to say, faithful is this man. Is that clear, ne? This man is faithful. We must pay for the laborers. They must be paid out together, ne? But a Christian businessman will be like the Good Samaritan. Heal him, I will pay everything. So what was his first concern? Healing. But the money must not be overlooked. It must be paid. So paying is what is necessary, but it comes as a Christian will look and weigh. This person is dying. I have the surplus of what? Of helping this person. You understand, né? Yes, so may the Lord bless the reading of His word. I do not know if there's a question. You have a question? You don't have a question? Brother Paul, you have a question? Hmm? You don't have a question. You are clear, né? Yes, God wants us to be faithful where? Everywhere. Everywhere. May the Lord bless the reading of His word. Now we are going to get breakfast and bath. Is that clear, né? So that we keep time. So if those that are in the kitchen are busy preparing the breakfast, others should be bathing so that we are not left behind in time. Is there any another announcement from the kitchen? Or another announcement? It's fine, eh? All right. It's fine. We can just close our eyes as we pray. Can we close our eyes as we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning. We want to thank you for this lesson that we have just received. It is an eye-opening lesson, Lord Father, that you have blessed us with, so that we know that every transaction that we are engaged with, Lord, we have the auditors, the heavenly angels, that nothing pass unseen with their terrible gaze, Lord. We pray that everything that we do, faithfulness should be our first concern and not to exploit one another. Lord, may you please have mercy and forgive us if we have done this in the past, Lord. May you be with us as we are going to prepare for the Sabbath school program, as we are going to go for breakfast. Please be with each and every one of us. We pray this in the wonderful name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.